You hold the shirt, the gift, the note, the book. You know you should throw it out. It's stained. It's broken. It hurts to see. But you pause. You hesitate. You feel guilty. Guilty for letting go. Guilty for moving on. Guilty for choosing peace over memories. Let me ask you, if it's just clutter, why does it feel like grief? This is where most people get it wrong. Decluttering isn't just a task. It's a trauma encounter. Especially when you've survived narcissistic abuse, where your choices, your voice, and even your space were not your own. What you keep, what you throw away, was never just your decision. And now that you can choose? It feels like a betrayal of the past. To them. To your inner child. But here's the truth, letting go isn't betrayal. It's permission. It's not about forgetting. It's about finally becoming your own safe place. In this video, we're going to unpack the heavy, hidden guilt that shows up when you try to declutter. Not just guilt from objects. But guilt from identity. From survival. From breaking the contract of a narcissistic family system. And we'll do it gently. Because healing isn't about force. It's about remembering that you matter. Comment "This guilt isn't mine" if you've ever felt like your clutter was emotionally booby-trapped. Coming up next, the 4 types of guilt that make letting go so hard. This might explain a lot. Let's name them. Because when you name the guilt, you take back the power. There are 4 types of guilt that often show up when you're trying to declutter after narcissistic abuse. 1. Inherited guilt. This is the guilt that was passed down to you. Maybe you grew up in a narcissistic family system where everything had meaning, every object was sacred, even if it hurt. Throwing it out feels like disrespecting family, culture, or history. But honoring the past doesn't mean keeping what breaks you. 2. Survivor guilt. You got out. You healed. You're building a better life. And somehow, you feel bad about it. You think of others still stuck. Or your younger self who endured it all. You might even feel like letting go of objects equals letting go of those parts of you. But healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means choosing to live fully. 3. People-pleasing guilt. This guilt whispers, what if they come over and see I threw that out? What if they're disappointed? It's the old trauma voice trying to keep you safe, by keeping you small. But safety isn't found in fear. It's found in emotional boundaries. You don't owe anyone an explanation for what you no longer carry. 4. Self-abandonment guilt. Sometimes, we don't feel guilty for letting go. We feel guilty for not doing it sooner. For abandoning our needs. For staying too long. This is where compassion matters most. Because the person you were, did what she needed to survive. And now? You get to choose peace, not punishment. Comment which one hit you, if one of these guilts felt painfully familiar. Up next, let's zoom in on the most invisible one, inherited guilt. It's sneaky. But we'll bring it to light. Some guilt doesn't come from your actions. It comes from your inheritance. Not money. Not heirlooms. But emotional scripts. You don't throw that out. That was your grandmother's. We keep things in this family. Sound familiar? This is inherited guilt, the kind that gets passed down quietly, through looks, expectations, and silent rules. In narcissistic family systems, objects aren't just things. They're tokens of control. They represent loyalty, obedience, legacy. Letting them go? It feels like rebellion. But rebellion isn't always wrong. Sometimes it's survival. Inherited guilt trains you to prioritize other people's feelings above your emotional truth. It tells you, if you throw that away, you're ungrateful. If you don't keep it, you're bad. But keeping an object that makes you anxious, ashamed, or small, that's not tradition. That's emotional entrapment. Here's a reframe: you can honor someone's memory without keeping the object. You can carry their values, without carrying the weight. Comment: I didn't ask to carry this if inherited guilt has shaped how you declutter. Up next, let's look at another invisible burden, survivor guilt. Why does healing make you feel bad? Let's talk about the guilt no one tells you you'll feel when you finally start getting better. When you escape the chaos. When you have your own space. When your nervous system softens for the first time in years. You'd think you'd feel free. But sometimes, you feel guilty. This is survivor guilt. And it's very real for those recovering from narcissistic abuse. You survived something that others didn't. Maybe they're still in it. Maybe they're family. Maybe it's your younger self, still frozen in memory. And so when you declutter, when you breathe, when you smile, you hear that whisper, who are you to be okay? But here's the truth, your peace doesn't betray anyone. It honors the version of you who dreamed of it. Healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means fulfilling what they couldn't. You're not abandoning others by moving forward. You're showing what's possible. Comment: I choose peace, not guilt. If you've ever felt bad for getting better. Next up, let's uncover the guilt that shows up when you start saying no. People-pleasing guilt, and how to say yes to you again. Let's talk about one of the most invisible guilts. The one that whispers when you set a boundary. The one that stings when you say no. The one that asks, am I allowed to put myself first? This is people-pleasing guilt. And for many survivors of narcissistic abuse, it's deeply wired in. You learned early that making others happy was the only path to safety. That to maintain emotional boundaries meant risking rejection, punishment, withdrawal. So even now, when the narcissist is no longer in your life, you might still feel guilty for saying, I don't want to keep this. That's not mine to carry. This doesn't serve me anymore. It's not just about stuff. It's about permission. You were never given permission to choose yourself. To trust your preferences. To own your space. But here's the reframe: every time you let go of something that doesn't feel aligned, you're saying, I matter. My needs matter. My peace matters. Comment: I'm allowed to say no. If you've ever felt guilty for choosing your own energy. Up next, why letting go often feels like a rebellion. And how to reframe that rebellion as restoration. Have you ever picked something up and felt like letting it go was dangerous? That fear isn't irrational. It's programmed. When you've lived through narcissistic abuse, even the tiniest act of reclaiming your space can feel like rebellion. Because it is. You're not just decluttering. You're disrupting the pattern. The pattern where your choices were policed. Where your independence was punished. Where anything that looked like separation was seen as betrayal. Letting go can trigger guilt, not because it's wrong, but because for years, you were taught that having a self was wrong. This is what trauma researcher Pete Walker describes as the abandonment depression. The intense fear that if you stop appeasing, you'll be alone. But healing means learning this truth: letting go is not rejection. It's restoration. You are not doing something bad. You're doing something brave. You're showing your nervous system, I can release something, and still be safe. Comment: it's safe to choose me. If you've ever felt afraid of your own independence. Coming next, let's talk about the one lie that keeps you clinging: I might need it later. That sweater you haven't worn in 5 years? That broken appliance? That stack of boxes you keep just in case? Yeah. We're going there. The most sneaky guilt of all, the lie that whispers. But what if I need it someday? On the surface, it looks like caution. But underneath? It's fear. Scarcity trauma. When you've experienced narcissistic abuse, especially financial control or emotional neglect, your body remembers what it felt like to go without. To not have enough. To feel powerless. So you keep things. Not because you love them. But because losing them feels risky. It's your nervous system saying, if I let this go, I'll be vulnerable. If I don't keep everything, I won't be safe. But guess what? Safety doesn't come from stuff. It comes from trust. From knowing you're not in survival mode anymore. From building inner safety, bit by bit. You don't need to hoard objects to protect yourself. You need to believe, I'll be okay, even if I let go. Comment trust over clutter if you've ever kept things out of fear, not love. Up next, the guilt no one sees coming, spiritual or moral guilt, when decluttering feels like dishonoring who raised you. Some things feel heavier than they look. A Bible from your childhood. A rosary from your mother. A book your pastor gave you. A gift from someone who said, always remember this. When you try to let go, it doesn't feel like organizing. It feels like sin. This is spiritual guilt, the kind that wraps shame in sacredness. Many survivors of narcissistic abuse come from environments where religion or morality was used to control, to shame, to enforce obedience under the banner of virtue. You weren't just taught right from wrong. You were taught that your worth depended on self-denial. So when you try to create space, your body says, this is wrong. This is selfish. This is betrayal. But here's the truth, letting go of the object doesn't mean letting go of the meaning. You can release the book, and keep the blessing. You can release the gift, and keep the love. You can let go, and still be good. Morality isn't measured by how much you hold on. It's revealed in how well you choose what matters now. Comment my peace is sacred if guilt has ever made you question your spiritual worth. Up next, how guilt blocks the body, and how nervous system healing can help you release with safety. Sometimes you don't feel guilty in your mind. You feel it in your body. That frozen feeling. That tightening in your chest. That lump in your throat as you stare at something you want to let go of, but can't. This is trauma response. It's not weakness. It's wiring. When you've lived with chronic guilt, especially inside a narcissistic family system, your nervous system becomes hypersensitive to threat. Even if the threat is just a box of old letters. Or a closet you know you need to clean. Your body doesn't know, it's just organizing. Your body thinks, if I let this go, something bad will happen. Because in the past, letting go did cost you connection, approval, safety. So now? You freeze. Not because you're lazy, but because your nervous system is saying, stop. This isn't safe. But you're not there anymore. You're safe now. And healing means retraining your body to trust the present. Through breath. Through touch. Through small, safe actions. Comment my body remembers, but I can choose again if decluttering ever triggered a full body shutdown. Coming up, let's do it together. A simple 3-minute somatic ritual you can use every time guilt flares up. Let's bring this into the body. Because sometimes, talking about guilt isn't enough. Sometimes you have to move through it. Here's a 3-minute ritual you can use anytime guilt, fear, or resistance comes up while decluttering. No fancy tools. Just you, your breath, and your permission. Step 1, ground, sit or stand. Feel the floor. Let your body know, I'm here. I'm safe. Place your hand on your chest or belly. Step 2, breathe, inhale for 4 counts. Hold for 2. Exhale for 6. Repeat 3 times. Whisper, this is now. I am safe. Step 3, touch, pick up the item that brings up guilt. Notice how your body responds. Is there tension? Shame? Pressure? Don't fight it. Acknowledge it. Say softly, thank you guilt, but I don't need you to protect me anymore. Step 4, choose, ask, do I truly want to keep this? If no, release it with a gentle breath. If yes, put it aside with intention, not guilt. Step 5, close, place your hands together. Say, I am free to create a space that honors me now. Comment, I choose calm over guilt if you're ready to practice this the next time decluttering gets heavy. Final segment coming up, what you keep now, keeps you safe. The closure. The clarity. The freedom. So here we are. You've walked through the guilt. You've named it. Felt it. Faced it. And now, you get to choose. What stays? What goes? What supports your peace? What no longer belongs? Decluttering after narcissistic abuse isn't just spring cleaning. It's soul reclamation. You're not just making room. You're remaking your reality. The objects you choose to keep? They're not leftovers of trauma. They're anchors of clarity. Each one should whisper, "You're safe. You're loved. You chose this." And every item you release? That's a piece of guilt you no longer carry. You're not just letting go of stuff. You're letting go of shame. Of silence. Of scripts you never asked for. You are creating a space where your nervous system can breathe. Where your identity can stretch. Where your peace can land. And that's worth everything. Comment "My space is sacred now" if this journey helped shift even one item, from burden to blessing. Thank you for choosing yourself today. And remember, you don't have to decode them. You only need to trust your own clarity. Unmasking personality.